that's going to be necessary.
This is the Junk and Stuff Podcast, episode 001, Getting to Know Us.
Achievement unlocked. You are listening to the Junk and Stuff Podcast. From movies and television to current events and 80s flashbacks, pop culture has nowhere to hide, and nothing is sacred here. And now, your hosts, Kevin Tomlinson the Wordslinger, and Bob Beaver, the other guy.
I am Kevin Tomlinson the Wordslinger, and somewhere to my distant left is Bob Beaver, the other guy. How you doing, Bob?
Doing just fine in the brand new CDS Productions studio.
It's looking good, man. I don't even want to reveal any of the top secret stuff that went into building that over in your place.
Hundreds and hundreds of pennies.
Okay, so you know what? We will actually cover that at some point because that's relevant to this show. Which is all right for those listening, for you tuning in for the very first time ever. This is not the first episode, although we say it is. It is not the first time that Bob and I have collaborated together to record this episode. I think this is our fourth attempt at episode 1, right, Bob?
That's right.
I think. I know we've recorded at least 3. We recorded a couple episodes that were audio only and decided we wanted this to be a video podcast. And then when our first couple of attempts at doing this on video met with abysmal failure just because of Google Hangouts. We tried doing this on a video Skype call, and that worked. It did work, but it didn't give us any of the cool stuff that we really wanted, and we wouldn't be able to do a live show that way. So here we are, attempt number 4.
It featured me a lot.
It did feature you a lot. It featured you almost exclusively.
Thank you.
For a narcissist like me, that's completely unacceptable. So, but here we are. We're live. This is the first time that I've actually managed to pull off a live broadcast. And we don't have an audience yet, so there's nobody tuning in live to ask questions or that sort of thing. And I don't know how that works yet. Yeah. Well,
listeners are so demanding.
One day we're going to actually have that going. I can tell. I can just feel it. I don't know yet how it's going to work, but I'm looking forward to trying and figuring it out. So I'll ask. I got some buddies on the To Be Read podcast who can give me lots of information about how that works. So for now, for the time being, actually, you know what? I think I know how it works, Bob. I sent you the link before the show, but you would have to monitor questions, and since you don't have a monitor yet in front of you, that's going to...
Don't give away my secrets.
Okay, looking behind the curtains, everybody.
We have a Crate 2 supercomputer right behind the camera where you can't see it.
We'll figure it out. You know what you didn't do? You didn't remind me to start the stopwatch. So I'm starting.
Oh, by the way, Kevin, start the stop. I knew I was supposed to tell you to start something, but that slipped right out of my mind.
Thanks, man. So, if you're tuning in, so what we've done in the past so far. So the first 2 times we tried to do a episode 1 here, we talked about zombies because that's something that Bob and I have a common interest in, is zombies in pop culture. But we kind of decided that this needed to be about us, at least for this first episode, to kind of get to know us. And we are Bob and I are just a couple of guys. We've known each other for, I don't know, Bob, how many years now?
20 years just about now, isn't it?
At least, yeah, man. We started working at a Radio Shack together back in the day, a franchise Radio Shack. It wasn't even owned by Radio Shack, which...
Bill.
Yeah, Bill. Let's not give his last name. No,
oh,
come on.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just... Bill Smith. Yes, that's it.
So Bob and I used to work together. We worked in the Radio Shack that was the real Radio Shack, not the kind of joke of a Radio Shack that exists now, man. If you brought something into a Radio Shack at that time, we could fix it for you, or just build you a whole new one out of the parts we had just laying around. So those were the days, man. That was a much better experience, I think.
And competition audio systems and K40 antennas for your CB radio and
all that geeky stuff. So we're geeks from way back, and so here's the deal. This show is a look at pop culture. It's a look at movies and TV, and it's kind of a look back, but it's also a look at our lives and the things we encounter, our daily lives, the stuff that we did kind of coming up, all the antics we got into when we were younger, when we were kids, and we each have our stories. And we want to open this up too for listeners to kind of get involved and interact with us, ask us questions, throw something at us, whatever. We're probably going to cover topics like, zombie apocalypse, or I think at one point we debated the merits of technology and reality in Star Wars. Was one episode.
Yeah, completely unreal.
Yeah, plausible. I say plausible. There's a lot of plausibility in Star Wars. We'll get to that. Sorry, man. My throat's getting all dry. I had to refuel there. So
you're just nervous because I'm here.
That's what it is. Yeah. Normally, when I'm doing a podcast, and by the way, I do a couple of other podcasts. One of which is my podcast, the Wordslinger podcast, which you can check out on iTunes. And while you're there, just like this podcast, please go and find it and write a review and leave me some stars. And those things are very important for helping people discover a podcast. And I'm also a co-host of the Self-Publishing Answers podcast with author Nick Thacker. So if you want to know about how to write, publish, and market your book, you tune in there. If you want to hear stories from entrepreneurs about their business, about what they're doing in their lives, get a little inspiration and information, tune into the Wordslinger podcast. And this one is just us talking about anything that really interests us from the world of pop culture and beyond. Does that sound about right, Bob?
It's just for fun, to entertain you.
It's mostly to entertain me, what it is.
There's no information here, or
there might be. There might be useful information
just a
here.
Snippet here and there, but for the most part, it's just to make you smile and laugh.
Right. So that's the majority of this show. Now, if you're looking, if you're watching this on YouTube or elsewhere, you're going to see Bob and I have our little studios built here. This is my converted closet in my home, and this is where I do all my podcasting. And I'm on the studio cam right now, which is slightly out of sync with the audio for some reason. I cannot figure out why. I'm probably going to replace the computer that I actually use in here just because I want a dedicated computer instead of this MacBook Air, because it may be a processing issue. And then Bob, why don't you talk about your studio a bit?
I don't have an elaborate studio like Kevin does, although it may appear that. This is actually it's a foam mattress pad spray painted with paint, and it's a seat from a 2001 Buick Century that rolled over, and this is a magnifying lens stand that you use to work on delicate items that I took the stand part off and grafted on the fitting for a microphone to hold it.
Man, I think it's awesome. You've got this essentially the same setup I have that I paid several $100s for, actually more, and you grafted yours together out of bits and pieces. That's exactly what I love, man. I think it's pretty awesome.
In a week, actually, a flat week.
Just to impress the Wordslinger. He did it just to show off, is what he did. And
he was impressed.
Now let me tell you, that's what this show is. That kind of stuff. Not talking about cobbling something together out of junk. That may happen, but the Junk and Stuff podcast it comes from some stuff that we used to do in our origins and background. Bob, you've told this story like 4 times now. Why don't you tell again where the origin of Junk and Stuff?
Okay. Well, people make parody dubs of Japanese animation shows. Well, back in the old days, they used VCR, where editing was a whole lot more difficult, and any editing that was unnecessary was left unedited. So you may often have a character who mouth move a lot, and the line is very short, so the lips flap endlessly with nothing to fill it, so you just add and stuff. Or if they flap a lot, you add and junk and stuff.
Yeah.
And that comes off as hysterical. Now, they don't do that anymore. They use computers, and editing is a snap, so you can make your lines longer or shorter at will.
And there you go.
But
never get tired.
That's a thing. What was that?
I never get tired of hearing the origin.
Yeah, yeah.
over and
It
over and over and over again.
yeah, yeah.
Seems like once a week
To
I hear
quote,
George in the show.
yeah, yeah. To quote, the line was, "I think someone stole it. Why don't you go out and look for it and stuff."
So that brings up. I mean,
It's like
Bob
a
and
good
I
little
have
pause
done.
in there.
Bob and I have done quite a bit of work on anime parody dubs, and Bob and some friends of his did this long before I came along, but they got me involved somewhere in the 90s, late 90s, I guess,
98,
and
1998. You played
1998.
yourself.
I played myself. My debut role in an anime parody dub was Kevin, um, and I was kind of the hero of the show too, if I recall.
Yeah, you were the one we shoved everything off on.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So that was a lot of fun, and those parody dubs, some of them are still floating around to this day. They garnered you quite a bit of reputation, though, right, Bob? You were.
Yeah, worldwide actually, Australia, England, anywhere where they speak English, they actually were shown. I think also they were shown once in Germany. I'm
Mhm.
thinking kind of fuzzy on that whole deal.
So Bob is known online and other places as Seiko,
That Seco guy is the usual
the
term.
Seiko guy, and the sort of
Only one of me.
the name of the sort of group that we were part of, that was the production company behind all these parody dubs, was called CDS Productions, which was Seiko's duplication service. Is that right?
That's amazing you even know that, Kevin. That's shocking.
I pay attention. It's been 20 years, man. I should have learned something by
Wow,
now. And now that comes
incredible.
from Bob used to dub these things and send them off to people on
Yep.
request. You send him, I guess, a little bit of cash for mailing it out and everything, and then you'd send them a tape, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, they would send a blank tape, and I would record it, and I'd send it back to them.
So
And I had a very elaborate setup. I could run off, 3 of one and 3 of the other. Or I could do 6 of all one, which I used to do for the parody dubs.
and nowadays you could do 1,000 of them easy. Just
Yeah, you just put them
make
up on a
copies.
torrent site and made people
Everything has
download them
changed
themselves
so
in like
much.
seconds.
20 years
Oh,
ago,
it's
we
amazing.
were like cutting edge, and it was unbelievable. Nobody questioned our supremacy in the world of parody, and now it's kind of any kid with an iPhone can basically do what we were doing.
Oh yeah, we actually pushed, because we had a very tight budget. I pushed the limits of the technology I had at my disposal. I mean,
Yeah.
I did things that any self-respecting video producer would say, "No, you can't do that. You're not supposed to do that." Well, you did that, but you weren't, that wasn't right. And wow, I'm really impressed that you did that.
Well, what are you gonna do? That's how it goes. We were always doing things we weren't supposed to do. Now, Bob and I have done.
Yeah.
Maybe at some point, if I can figure out how this works, how I can do it, I'd love to play a clip from Flight of the Enterprise to show
No,
people one of our other
please.
projects. And I'm at least going to try to put that on YouTube somewhere and refer to it, because that's
Yeah,
kind of
that's.
unfortunately the only version of it I have isn't very clean. So I may have to go hunting to see if I can pull it together and make it a little better. I mean, it
Well,
is
yeah, if we
from.
had the source tapes and we had
Oh,
the
we do.
music that was used, we could put it together.
We do. We do have all that, don't we?
I
I'm sure
hope
we
you
do.
have it, because I don't.
I'm sure I do somewhere.
Yeah.
So, this podcast, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about stuff like that, though, the things that we've done, which is cool, and you'll get kind of our insight on pop culture in the form of TV and movies, and maybe a little music. Bob's not such a music hound. I'm not either, really, to be honest. I mean, in the 80s, I was listening to music from the 50s and 60s mostly, so I'm not going to be much help there. But then I started listening to 80s music in the early 2000s, so I caught up. But I don't have
Yeah,
a
for
bunch of
me,
fond
music
80s
died
music memories. Yeah,
back in the early 90s.
we're not, we're not musically inclined, I guess. But
No,
now you talk about movies and TV, and we're all over it. Um,
sure, if it's
and
good.
another sort of double meaning for the junk and stuff name of the show uh, is
Was
that
there a double meaning?
there is a double meaning, whether you intended it or not. I
Oh,
kind of
okay.
did. The reason I thought Junk and Stuff was a good title for the show wasn't just the kind of in joke about parody does, but also because Bob and I do what we call junk driving. At least I call it junk driving. Bob may call it something entirely different. But we tend to get up on like Saturday mornings individually, kind of raid our neighborhoods, kind of combing for finds, things that people toss out that we might be able to make some use of. And
Yeah.
it's kind of a fun hobby. I mean, I dig it. I'm kind of a repurposer and a reinventor. I love to get my hands on something and kind of modernize it if I can, or just find a new use for it that wasn't really intended. In fact, my studio here, there's quite a bit in here that's found merchandise. Should
Oh,
I
your
get into?
microphone, I believe.
Yeah, the microphone was a dumpster find. Yeah, I picked that
Okay,
up out of a
I'm
dumpster.
sorry to interrupt you, Kevin, but I have now hit my head on this black thing about 3 times now, and I need to move it. So
That sounds more like a YP than an MP. You know what that means, Bob?
yeah, I know.
That's
Okay,
more
now
your
I can
problem
turn
than
my
my
head
problem.
back and forth, and now hit it.
Yeah, so the microphone I did pick up in a dumpster. That was kind of an unbelievable find. It's actually a pretty good microphone. And it's not the top
Yeah,
of
it
the.
sounds great.
It works for me. It works for podcasting for sure. The little table, which I could give a tour. Let me give a tour. You're gonna get a little motion sickness if you're watching. All right. Here we go. Can you see this, Bob, on your screen?
Yes, I
So
can see it.
it only shows if I'm talking. So right now, and I left the fan running, so you can probably hear the fan. I forgot to turn it off. This little table here that my mixer is on is a dumpster dive find, and it worked out pretty good. And it puts the mixer at my feet. What else? I don't know if there's anything else in here. That TV that I'm using as a monitor is actually a dumpster find that you found, Bob.
Yeah, that's right. And I sold it to you for a pretty penny.
Did you know?
I
You
did.
did. I don't recall how much. $50 or something.
$50, I think, was it?
Worth every penny. So yeah.
And now I wish I had it back, actually.
Too
As well as the
bad.
mount that it's. By the way, the mount that TV's attached to was a find.
Oh,
Actually, it was
yeah,
attached to a
exactly.
TV that I picked up. That was actually the TV had apparently fallen off of somebody's wall and smashed the screen out. And I took the whole thing, and later on, I'll say about a couple of months later, I found another TV just like it that had a good screen that didn't work, and I did some part swapping
I had no idea.
got myself a perfectly functional TV.
I had no idea you put that much work into it. Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, and it works great. It's exactly what I needed in here. Because I throw scripts or something up there, or if I'm doing an audiobook read, I could put the book up there. What I have a problem with is the resolution is too low for me to do most of what I want to do. But it is good for things like what I'm doing now. I can throw. I use Post-its, the digital stickies on Mac for a lot of show notes and that sort of thing, which we're not keeping for some reason. And so I'll throw the stickies up there so I can remember, to mention a show guest's website, or I have right now I've got the online stopwatch running so I can time out the show, because when I do the show on Skype I get a timer from Call Recorder, but when we do it on this there's no indication of how long we've been recording, which I think is kind of a failing of Google Hangouts, if you ask me.
So if we drone on and on forever, it's not our fault.
No, that's not the way it's going to work, though, because I actually do have a timer going, and so I will know when we hit the 45-minute mark. I keep looking up there at it. So, yeah, so the sort of secondary meaning of Junk and Stuff was that we do that sort of thing. We also go to flea markets a lot. That's a favorite
That's
hobby.
a fun time.
That's a fun time, and a lot of stuff that I use in my work came originally from the flea market. I used to own a video production company, and a lot of, in fact, I'd say fully all of the equipment that I used at the time came from the flea market and pawn shops and that sort of thing. I think, right?
Yeah.
I don't recall. I mean, at one time I bought 2 matched monitors at great expense, and then 6 months later they lowered the price on flat panel monitors dramatically, and I ended up buying a flat panel monitor, and so that was a big waste of money.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, for the pundits there, flea market, pawn shop. The mixer you can't see down here came from a pawn shop. The monitor over here, that's a out of the trash, fine, and there was nothing wrong with it. It works fine.
There you go.
This actually I bought. It was like, I think, I want to say $27 or something like that.
You bought that for $27?
Yeah, I bought that. That's actually, remember I was saying it's a magnifying glass stand for when you work on delicate things.
Yeah, but you're not longer.
And now it's a mic stand.
Yeah, whatever. It's exactly like mine, just white instead of black. Mine's
except it doesn't hold as much weight because it's got a little jig right here to keep it from going down any further than it was. Otherwise, it'd hit the floor. I think it needs stronger springs.
Very good. You can work on that.
Remember I was telling you about that little problem I had this morning? Well, that's the first time I put the microphone on it, and it went choo.
Very good. I think it works out pretty nice, Bob. I mean, your little space is every bit the space mine is.
Yeah, and it was only like the whole thing was only like $50.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible
to put the thing together.
So that's the kind of thing Bob and I like to do. We'll go find something, put it to use in a new way. We're a little frugal, we'll say.
We're cheapskates.
We're cheap. The thing is, though.
But it's not because we're poor. I mean, it's because of the challenge involved.
Yeah, I'd rather.
I could certainly go out and spend $267 to buy a real audio foam.
Yeah.
But if I can do it for $20 and a few cans of primer, I'm there, man.
Yeah, why not? Why not? It does the job, right?
It's a challenge.
I assume it does the job.
Yeah.
But that's the key. So that's the kind of thing Bob and I do, and we're going to do a lot more of that, and then we're going to talk about a lot of the things that we're interested in, and hopefully, eventually, what I want is for you guys, you watching and listening, to get involved and enjoy the show, and ask us questions, do whatever you got to do. Now we have a website, and that is, what is it, Bob? Oh no! I forgot the.
I will refer you to Kevin on the website.
I forgot the domain name. Hold on.
It's Junk and Stuff or something. Junk and Stuff Podcast.
Junk and Stuff Podcast. Yeah, junkandstuffpodcast.com. So you got to forgive me. I'm going and looking at it right now. Yes. So I'm going to change that a little. Right as of right now, it's not really doing much. It's just kind of hanging out there. But it'll have its own nifty, cool landing page and look and everything. I've just found out today how I can do it. I use Squarespace for my hosting, and so for a time there I didn't realize that I could actually create like squeeze pages and one-off landing pages and that sort of thing. So I will create something really cool for anyone dropping in, and it'll include a way for you to leave voicemail, which is to use, there will be a SpeakPipe plugin on the page. And so you can listen to voicemail, you can leave a voicemail, and eventually I'll have a number for you to call. I'm working on that. I probably could have already set it up. I just haven't really put any time into it. And you'll be able to email us from the site. So there you go.
Call the number.
Oh my God! Great. We're into the cheesy sound effects portion of the event.
Oh no.
Yes.
Do not
did you notice?
Canned sound effects.
Did you notice it? If you were listening, you may have noticed the theme music. Bob, do you know the theme music? Do you know where it comes from?
I don't. Music titles in me. If I wanted a song back when I was young, I didn't have any money. I just recorded it off the radio, and often didn't know an artist. I didn't know a title.
Let me play a few notes for you. You get that?
Feeling all right, is it?
That's it. That's it. Guy? We have a winner.
Is that Huey Lewis?
We have a winner. No, that is not Huey Lewis. That is,
I don't know who sings that song. I don't know anything about music.
I'm not going to tell you.
Okay.
I'm going to make you look it up.
I don't care.
All I can tell you is this is the reaction now that we've stolen that music.
I think George Lucas going to sue somebody.
I don't think it's George Lucas, though. No, I'm not going to tell you who it is. I'm going to make you look it up. So,
I won't be looking it up.
Bob's not a fan.
I don't care. It's
so
not
what-
important to me to know who sings the song.
No, that's weird to me. Like I don't know. I don't have to know who sings every song I listen to, but if it's a song I'm going to hear a lot, I go find out, who produced it. I may not be the most musically inclined person, but I will at least know who it is that sings the music I like. You don't ever do that? How do you
No,
find?
it's not important to me,
But you don't know looking for
Because
music from the same artist or what?
no, not really. I mean, I just, last time I bought music from a particular artist, it was like Kraftwerk, and it was back in like what 80 something, 88 or something like that.
All right, interesting.
So not important.
Well, that would be.
I don't
Joe,
really listen to music a lot.
Yeah, that artist would be Joe Cocker, and he's. And I can see where you would think it was
I don't
Huey
even know who
Lewis.
that is actually, so it doesn't matter.
I can see where you would think it would be Huey Lewis. Actually, Huey Lewis did a version of that song, and in the.
Did he? Okay, well that's probably where I got the confusion in.
Yeah, he did it from the movie Duets, which it was on the soundtrack.
Oh yeah, the
can't
guy
find
on the
that.
radio used to play that song.
Yeah.
Who used to play that? Was that what's his face? Joe Pags, wasn't it?
I have no idea who that is. Who is that? Is that a local DJ?
I
Who is
promise
that?
we really are friends and we do know each other.
We're not entirely into the same stuff, which is what's going to make
Yeah.
this podcast interesting, by the way, because if
It is, yeah.
because Bob and I bicker.
I wouldn't call it bickering. I call it you being a dick sometimes.
Yes, me being a dick and you being a complete utter moron. That's what seems to happen. So yeah, that's gonna be entertaining stuff. Trust me on that. That's gonna be entertaining. You're gonna want to tune in. So what else will we cover? What are some other things that we kind of fall back on in our conversations whenever we're heading for the flea market or whatever? What is it we talk about? 'Cause that's kind of
how
what this
much
show
we hate
is.
our wives.
No, we do not ever
Our
say
wives'
that.
antics. Oh, if they're listening, we love our wives.
Yeah,
And
we
they
don't.
can do no wrong.
Bob's just kidding, because we would never ever say that about our wives, our loving wives, on air, live where it would be recorded. Yeah, our wives can be a little entertaining, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
Um,
They have, what do you call it? Idiosyncrasies.
well, okay, I'm definitely not going in that direction with this show ever. 'Cause
Okay.
I don't want anything permanently recorded anywhere that says anything negative about my wife. So, because I like to live.
Well, my wife's not going to listen, so I can say whatever I
You
want.
never know. So you think that, but it'll turn up. If this show becomes popular and she hears about it somewhere, next thing you know, she's tuning in. So
But it's not really our goal to talk about our families.
no.
Our goal is to talk about interesting things of interest to a broad audience.
Right.
And our little, I'm not going to dote on my children or, my wife's.
What's the most recent movie you've seen, Bob?
What now?
What's the most recent movie you've seen?
Oh, I saw the Hobbit movie, the final Hobbit movie, the Battle of
Is that-
Five
is that-
Armies.
would
Saw
that
it
be
just this weekend.
Would that be the animated one from like the 60s or whatever?
No, the one that just came out, Peter Jackson's.
You're kidding. I'm so surprised. Really?
Yeah, got my she.
What's your favorite
She
movie
bought
of
the
all
DVD.
time, Bob? What's your favorite
The favorite
movie of all time?
of all time. Wow. Well, actually, historically has always been John Carpenter's The Thing.
Okay. And that's like a 70s movie, right?
That was actually the same year as E.T. came out.
So it's 83.
82, I believe, is the exact date.
Was it 82?
Yeah, it was actually released
That's
at the
actually
same time
surprising,
E.T.
too.
was. Yeah.
Uh,
But people decided they liked cuddly aliens better than shape-shifting evil aliens.
you were right.
So
It wasn't. It was
you did
1982.
poorly.
Yeah, so Bob's taste in movies skews toward older films. A lot
Not
of
always. I mean,
well, you do. A lot of your favorite movies are really old films.
you know, I think what it is that you don't like is I'm not stuck on, you know, oh, this stars in a movie, so it's going to be great, and I'm going to watch it. I'm like, I
Well,
don't
who
care
is?
who's in the movie. I just want to see what happens in the movie.
I am also not stuck on whether a star is in the movie or not. That doesn't make me go see a movie. I go see a movie if it's something I'm going to be interested in.
Yeah.
But I also I respect that there are a lot of really good movies, that predate the 80s. Uh,
Yes.
but there are a lot of crap movies that predate the 80s. And frankly, there are a
This
lot
is
of
true.
movies in the 80s that were total crap too that I don't want to see again either. So at the time that I watched them, they were awesome. But watching them over and over again, 3 decades later, I'm not so sure.
This is true. Some movies do not stand the test of time.
No, they don't age well. Surprisingly, though, there are quite a few that do. I've found that movies from like the 50s um, tend to age well. I don't know why that is. There's something there's something different about like an old black and white film from the 50s um, versus like something made in the 70s and 80s. I think I'm just prejudiced against movies made in the 70s and 80s. There are some that are just classic no matter what, like Ghostbusters. And Back to the Future has its merits, although it's getting a little dated too. Now,
Yeah.
Back to the Future kind of reads like a like a retro movie. If you're watching Back to the Future, it's almost like you're watching an idealized version of the 80s. Doesn't it feel like that to
Yeah.
you?
True. Yeah. It had a different. I don't know. It had a different vibe with it when we watched it for New Year's,
Yeah.
and it just I don't know. I can't. It's hard to describe.
Isn't it though?
It's like looking at.
Maybe it's
No,
because
go ahead.
maybe it's because they went back to the 50s and did a nostalgia film for the 50s in that movie, so it made the whole film feel that way. So now that we watch it, you know, 20 years later, or whatever, 30 years later, it's it feels like it was made to be nostalgic for the 80s. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of movies that you could say were classy back in the 50s when they were black and white, film noir.
Yeah.
You know, and it just gave them, I don't know, the black and white movies that were taken seriously and not like, you know, fluff pieces made in like a weekend, like what was that, Little Shop of Horrors,
Yeah.
that cult classic, which was shot like I think in what 3 days was it?
Well, a lot of your favorite movies were
Yeah.
made in like a weekend.
Well, come on, that's a little unfair, isn't it?
No, I mean, weren't they? All right, you're a big fan of Ed Wood, right?
I
You're a fan of the film Ed Wood, but you're maybe not such a fan of the actual Ed Wood's films, right?
well, I mean, you can say what you want about Ed Wood, but he got his motion pictures made.
That is
He
true.
was an incredible salesman to
Yeah.
get the money, made these movies happen. You can say, "Oh, they're terrible movies," but
They
they're
are.
there. Where's your movie?
Where's my movie?
Where's
Do you
your
really
movie,
want it?
Kevin?
I have movies out.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have a movie
I'm
out.
on
So,
IMDb. Are you on IMDb?
I'm on the Anime Turnpike, if it still exists. But, I mean, we're talking about movies here, and I don't have any motion pictures that I've actually put together and shown on a big screen.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that I do. I'm an author, and I write a lot of science fiction and fantasy, mostly science fiction, and I have a couple of series out, 2 or 3 series, and some other one-off books. I got about 12 books out total, I think. And
Yeah, mine is in progress. It's not ready yet.
yeah, you're converting a short story you wrote in the 90s, right?
It was
Is that when you wrote Who?
1998, I believe. 1998 was a busy year for us.
Apparently.
So I wrote that. We did Kokowa Taku, and I was extremely busy with work. So to know that I had time to do anything like that was just incredible.
I want to point out, by the way, that I came into the Parody Dubs around 98, but we knew each other long before that. Because
yeah, there was like a gap where you kind of just disappeared, and
I don't know.
that was it. The store closed.
Yes.
The store closed, and then I decided not to apply for employment to get rehired on by the company. I took a year off, and then after that, I decided, hey, money's cool. So I went in, and that was back when Brian L. was the manager there, and I walked in and applied for the job, fixed a VCR that was there, and he hired me.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was an interesting transition because that was it was a complete 180 from the way we did business with Bill when he owned the store, and then they changed the location. I was gone by then.
Oh yeah, you weren't there for that.
No, I went on and became an engineer,
yeah.
and then eventually left that and went back to school full time again. So yeah, it was adventurous, we'll say. I kind of miss those days. I'll be honest with you. That job was probably one of my favorite jobs. Out of every job I've had, that's the one that I think back on with nostalgia.
At Radio Shack?
Yeah.
I think part of it was that the whole life experience seemed to be a whole lot less complicated back in those days.
It was, yeah.
You know?
I could agree with that. But
today, everything seems so busy. Everything's rushed. Everything's hectic. You know, you've got commitments to significant others. You know, we both have houses that we have to pay for.
Yeah,
I had a house back in those days, though. So
I'm actually working on getting rid of the house.
It wasn't as big a house.
My wife and I are we are going to sell our home and buy an RV, and we're going to live a nomadic lifestyle for a while. Because my work is mobile and I can do it anywhere, and I'm very inspired by travel, and so we're going to actually spend at least a year, but I'm thinking we'll probably go much longer because there's a lot of country to explore out there, and we're just going to
still do the podcast though.
Yeah, we'll still do the podcast. I'm going to do all my podcasts and more things besides. It may not look like this. I don't know how it's going to look.
We can make
I may have to build
I
may have to go get some mattress foam and paint it primer gray and and build a fake little studio. I will do that, by the way. I have no problem doing that. Actually, I have a whole lot of this sound foam left over. I was going to do the rest of my space in here. I'm actually going to be tearing all this out. It's very ad hoc. I kind of threw it all together very quickly because I was going to start doing the podcast way back when. And
actually, it looks very professional, Kev. I gotta say. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I mean, it
is.
It's professional grade. I mean, there's things that I want to do to make it look a little nicer. I want my backdrop to be a little nicer, and I've got some plans to make it. I don't know. There's things I'm going to do. I'm going to put a soundproof door on here and soundproof it a little more. I'm actually thinking of getting some like spray-in insulation in the inner walls here because they're not insulated for sound. So occasionally I hear things going on in the other room. But Karen and I actually made Thursday nights a no TV night. We're trying to kind of wean ourselves from TV. So
you're living up to your end of the bargain, Kev.
I am. That's part of the reason I do this podcast is to keep my mind off of my addiction to TV. So this way I'm watching you on TV. It's like the Bob channel. I'm mostly watching me on TV.
Channel.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. So, yeah. there's that going on, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Actually, I'm kind of looking forward to that. The downside to that is I won't be able to do the junk drives anymore. Not the way I do now. I'll have to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
very judicious about what I pick up. And there's
Because
going to
you
be
won't
some.
have room for it.
Well, man, I gotta tell you, there's going to be some rough days, because I'm gonna be cruising along and I'm gonna see something. I'm like, oh my god, I have to pick that up. I gotta have that. So they threw that out. No way. Somebody's gonna throw out like a car or something, and I'm gonna want it, or a motorcycle. Actually, stuff like that I'd probably pick up because I'd probably put it on the RV and fix it up and use it. So who knows? Whatever. It's gonna be cool. I'm gonna have to
Well,
ship things to you.
I'm gonna have to go to the flea market by myself, I guess, is all I can say.
Well, it's not like I'm going to be gone forever. I will come back
Well, a
through.
year is practically forever, Kev. I
Yeah,
mean,
but
it's
you know what's fun about RVs is that they go from place to place, and I can actually come back here every now and then, once a month or something, or every couple of months, and we can go to the flea market.
but your house won't be here anymore. It'll be sold.
Nah, it ain't going to hurt anything. It'll be sold, and we'll be out of that debt, and that'd be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. Now, I'll be honest. This
Hmm.
is the kind of thing I always wanted to do when I was single, and for I don't know why I didn't do that. You ever think back on like, man, if I was single, I'd do this. Well, what was stopping you from doing it the first time around?
Money.
Not even money, man. There's nothing. There was no reason I couldn't have traveled and worked. I was working remotely even then, if you recall. Back before I met Kara, I was working with Todd. And we were doing production work, and then I started my own production company, and every single thing I did, I could have done remotely. I didn't have to be in one place. I have no idea why I stuck around.
You just
Fear.
wanted to be near me, that's all.
I think it was fear. I think it was just I was afraid to get out and try anything because whatever. I had no backup plan or whatever. Ridiculous. If I were to do it all over again, I'd do it. Just get an RV and go. Spend.
I don't know if I can't support the nomadic lifestyle. I'm very big on a routine and security and the same job and
You can
just
have all that and still
things
have
that
a nomadic lifestyle. It's not like I'm ditching out and tuning out and I'm just going to be on the road all the time, never work or whatever. I mean, I've got my business, so I'm going to keep doing what I do.
yeah.
I'm going to write books. I'm going to write blog posts. I'm going to do podcasts. I'm going to do all the stuff I do now. I'm going to work with clients, teach people how to write, that sort of thing. I'll do everything I do now, probably make more money at it, to be honest. Things are picking up. And, we're going to get Kara into something that we've already kind of got something in the works that would let her work remotely full time. And then we'll have routines. I mean, I got routines that are transferable.
Okay, Kev. Well,
You know what it is, man? I know
whatever floats your boat.
we have a yard, okay? A big, huge yard. You know how many times I've been in that big, huge yard since we moved in? And I avoid it. And I have my bike, and when I am on my bike, I ride around in my neighborhood, or I put it in the truck and I go ride around somewhere else. And I'm going to carry that bike with me on the RV. And basically, my outdoor time, that's where it is on the bike or hiking or whatever. I'm not exactly the most fit guy in the world yet, but I will be. I am becoming more so. And I'm just looking forward to that experience, man. And that's going to be more to talk about on this show and more to talk about in my other two shows. It's going to be a blast. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I remember back when I was in the old house. You remember the old house?
Yep.
That's where you made the homemade satellite dish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
See, folks, what you've missed
I
out on.
really like that house.
Yeah.
What now?
I was talking to the audience, but they've missed out on so much by not knowing us all these years.
Yeah, but that house had a big tree in the backyard, and it was nice to, pull up an old rusty lawnmower to work on or things like that. It was just
It's really easy.
a good little house.
It's really easy to pull up an old rusty lawnmower. You just had to dig through the high grass until you found one and drag it out into the open.
No, I kept the backyard mode. I kept the both yards mode, actually.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
So we are
Until the lawnmower threw a rod and it went right through the side of the engine.
yeah, we got a lot of adventures we get to talk about with this kind of stuff too, like the lawn dragster
Yes, we
that you
do.
built.
Oh, the lawn.
That was
Yeah,
cool.
we got to show that video too, Kev.
That's video we got to show as well. Yeah. Do we have video of the satellite dish? I mean, that is exciting visually,
I
but
am looking for the video of the satellite dish because all I have is a couple of stills showing the. Remember when I built the tripod for it?
yeah.
I have pictures of the tripod on the day it was built, and I'm actually got the monitor sitting on it, tuning in getting it orientated just right to receive the best signals.
You know what I
We'll
regret?
talk about that satellite dish later.
I regret
What
that
do you
we
regret?
never. I regret that we never made the Fur Witch project.
The what?
You remember?
Oh, the fur. Oh, no. Yeah, I threw the Furbies away.
Oh no! Ah well, Furbies are easy. We can get more.
Hey, whoa, a bright light.
Do you remember the little title sequence I pulled together for it?
Yeah, you actually pencil drew a storyboard for it, I think.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
and
I may have
I
that around here
animated
somewhere in
that.
the production hub.
You know, I became quite skilled at creating animations using nothing but Photoshop. So Photoshop and Premiere, because
So
back
did
in the
I.
day, I didn't have After Effects, and I wasn't when I did get my hands on it, I didn't know how to use it. So I got very skilled at creating animations, and I created that little animated opening for the Fur Witch project, and the CDS Productions audio logo that shows up in
Oh,
some
yes.
stuff. I made that.
CDS.
That was very cool, actually. I'm very proud of that
It was.
one. In fact, there's quite a few that I'm pretty proud of that were tied to the. So, it just takes. I think that's the thing. Now everyone relies on software to do everything, and that's fine. I have no issue with that. But I think there is something to be said for, you got to get a job done, and these are the tools you have, and so you figure out how to do it. And that translates to everything you and I do. I need an audio boost, so I'm going to paint this mattress foam. I need a swing arm, so I'm going to take this magnifying glass. I think that's the same stuff that happens. I've got a whole studio here that I cobbled together. It's out of a closet and everything, and found stuff that would work. I found junk and stuff, and I put it all together.
Yeah, how much was your swing arm, by the way, Kev?
Oh, I don't remember.
It was probably 3 digits, though, wasn't it?
Possibly, but I mean, if it was, it was going to be in the 100 to 150 range.
Yeah.
At most.
And mine was a whole lot cheaper.
Well, I do like having stuff that's meant for the purpose I'm using it, but I also I sold you my boom mic boom arm that
Yes.
the boom pole, and I kept my homemade one instead. The one I made from what do you call it? An extending brush arm or whatever.
Yeah,
well,
we need to put a project together and actually make something with all the equipment that we have.
We do have a lot of equipment.
Because we do have quite a bit of equipment. Yeah.
High-end equipment too. We've got some really high-end cameras. Both of us have three-chip
HD cameras.
And high-end audio. I've got some really high-end audio. I've got really, really high-end expensive microphones. Some of which I actually paid for. Yeah, and I'm looking at. I didn't show this in the tour, but I've got my Zoom H4n, which makes a great in-field audio recording device. Perfect. It's, I got lights. I got everything. I always have. I've got backdrops. I got everything I could ever possibly need to shoot pro-level video. I just don't do it anymore. Just a lot of work for no real payoff right now for me. I'm going to make that part of my business.
We need to get a project together.
Yeah, well, we always say that. We always say that, but
just
the problem
put something
is
together we can shoot in a single week is all we need.
Yeah, but the problem is just 2 of us. That's not enough. We actually need more people. Maybe
some of our listeners can help us.
Yeah, listeners, if you want to be part of video projects, whatever. All right. Well, we've gone over the 45-minute mark. and I wanted to wrap this up. So this has been the first episode 001. See my finger? 001 of the Junk and Stuff podcast, and we are your hosts. I have been your host, Kevin Tomlinson, the Word Slinger, and Bob Beaver, the other guy.
The other guy.
Yeah, oh man, we're getting the whole reverb thing now. Great. But that wraps us up this week. Be sure to visit.
You're just listening to the Junk and Stuff podcast with Kevin Tomlinson, the Wordsling, and Bob Beaver, the other guy. Why would you do that? But thank you. And please visit junkandstuffpodcast.com to subscribe to the show, and leave a voicemail for the hosts. And be sure to rate and review the Junk and Stuff podcast on iTunes, for infinite pleasure.
Take care, everybody.